that's what's going on. China is buying a Canadian gold mine. The Canadian gold mine is not in Canada, it's in Africa. And I think most people are not understanding that. There was another mine that was in Canada, in Nunavut, and that mine sale was blocked. But the Canadian or the Chinese can buy this one from the Canadians in an all-cash deal for $5.5 billion. And that's interesting, don't you think? I think that that's an interesting situation. I think that it's interesting that there were security risks with one, but this one's just fine. Gold's $5,000 an ounce. $5,000. It was $3,000 an ounce just like a second ago. Same with silver. What's going on with silver? It's north of $100. It's being suppressed. 103, I think, in the West. 111 in the East. That's interesting. All of those things are very interesting. They're taking money from taxpayers to give to people who don't work. That's communism. We're going to talk about that. Grocery money and making things, quote, fair. Equalization payments in communism don't work. It doesn't matter if you're super nice about it. It doesn't work either way. Are we going to have a snap election? Carney won't answer because Carney doesn't answer things. He just says a lot. China has been reading the emails of multiple world leaders for years. Sunak, Johnson, Liz Truss, all of them, and their aides, and everybody else too, probably. Who knows? New grocery rebate. Why not just remove the carbon tax and remove the industry-killing policies? And Liz May wants to participate in the New World Order. That's funny, but like not ha-ha funny, right? And Besant calls Carney a globalist, and that's pretty funny. That's like ha-ha funny. So lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we got to talk about trade, China, and then we're going to get into the grocery stuff and the economy in Canada. Yeah, it's all kind of messy and it's all kind of mixed all around together with different interconnecting stories. It's like a crossover comic book today. So lots to get to. I already said that. CBC Watcher is highlighting this, and this is 3 minutes of this lady who has some good takes sometimes, talking about how she wishes the prime minister wouldn't go to, all of these different places and poke our biggest trading partner in the eye. And I often say that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to be the prime minister prioritizing Canadians with his international, like the trade positions that he's taking, et cetera. China's way more important than the United States, but the bottom line doesn't say that. 80% of trade goes to the United States, 4%, 5% go to China, and China's kind of a dick. So what are we doing? Doesn't seem smart. And that's what she's saying here. So here we go.
I think there are broader Eastern and Western hemispherical conversations and conflicts here. Canada finds itself now pretty firmly wedged in the middle of that conflict.
We put ourselves there.
Question whether or not that needed to happen because of nice international headlines at Davos. And I think that there is some accountability that needs to be accepted.
Well, see, it's this word accountability that I'm interested in, because the speech has happened. And so you're suggesting, well, he shouldn't have said it. But now that he said it, you say you want accountability. Are you proposing that the prime minister come forward and go, that speech was a big mistake? I'm sorry I made Donald Trump angry?
I'm proposing that we
wait for it, because that's exactly what he did.
Take the approach that had been taken ostensibly last fall, which is getting back to the deal table to find some common ground. I agree with Rob. The opportunity to do that is on national security. There is already significant cooperation that happens in the North and elsewhere between the Canadian Armed Forces and U.S. forces, and that seems to be an area of concern for Trump. It is certainly an area of sovereignty and concern for us. At least start there, and then perhaps revisit some of the other sectoral agreements that had been discussed just months ago that seem to be completely left off the table right now.
Yeah, well, and I mean the whole idea of Chinese EVs coming into the Canadian market and then us slapping a Canadian made in Canada sticker on them and shipping it into the United States. Trump's been pretty clear about that. He doesn't want that either, right? Food Professor says apparently Prime Minister Carney called the President Trump yesterday and was, quote, very aggressively walking back some of the unfortunate remarks he made at Davos. If this is true, wow. So Josh says Treasury Secretary Besant, speaking to Fox News tonight, says Trump and Carney spoke today and claims Carney was very aggressively walking back some unfortunate remarks he made. You're going to hear that one more time, I think, in this little exchange. Minute long. Fox News. Here we go.
Let's talk about the Prime Minister, or if you prefer, Governor of Canada, and him threatening to, break economic alliances with the U.S., go with China. The president has threatened a 100% tariff. What impact would that have?
It would be a disaster for Canada. I was in the Oval with the president today. He spoke to Prime Minister Carney, who was very aggressively walking back some of the unfortunate remarks he made at Davos. And Sean, I'm not sure.
I wonder, just before Besant goes into speculating about what globalist Mark Carney is going to do, because he actually comes right out and calls him a globalist. It's pretty funny. Can you imagine being in the Oval Office when that call comes through to President Trump and he's like, oh, you'll never guess who it is. Hold on, Scott. Stay here. You're going to want to hear this. Speakerphone, right? Like hearing Prime Minister Carney grovel to Trump and walk back his Davos statements. That's got to be somewhat satisfying because Bessent went on a whole bunch of different programs talking about, I don't know what he's doing here. Maybe he's, trying to... Politically, we should ignore this as just noise because he's just, maybe setting up for a re-election campaign or something like that. But he can't be serious, basically, is what he said. And I guess not, because he called the president and said, oh, yeah, totally not serious. That was totally, something else. Here's Bessent again.
I'm not sure what the prime minister was thinking. Of course, Canada depends on the U.S. There's much more north-south trade than there could ever be east-west trade. He talks about middle countries having to do their own thing. And I'm old enough to remember when French President Francois Mitterrand tried to go down that route. It failed back in the 80s. It'll fail now. And Canada is linked to the U.S., and the Prime Minister should do what's best for the Canadian people rather than trying to push his own globalist agenda.
Boom. I mean, what else do you say there? Follow up? Brian Lilly says Scott Bessent tells Sean Hannity that he was in the Oval Office with Donald Trump when Mark Carney called and walked back many of his Davos and China comments. We don't know Carney's version because since he became prime minister, he doesn't put out readouts of leaders' calls. And that's weird, right? And this guy says Scott Bessent's a liar and a fraudster. Okay, I mean, you have to make up your own mind. I can't convince you one way or the other. I can just give you what I've seen, and you have to make up your own mind. But please do research. Brian Lilly responds. The point I'm making is that we have no word from Carney. We have nothing to compare to. We can either choose to believe Bessent or not, or believe there's some truth in what Bessent's saying or not. But our government's not giving us anything to push off of, right? They're not saying, oh, he's a liar. Yeah, that's not what was said. We didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. Look at our EV cars and stuff. He's not saying anything. So, and they're not putting anything out. That's the point. And that's leaves us in the dark to feel around for information wherever we can find it. And for a government that's so worried about mis and disinformation, that's weird behavior, don't you think? Right? I think so. Anyway, back to this. For decades, Brian Lilly says, when a prime minister would have a call with a world leader, you would get a readout, which would be sent to the media in the online world, posted to the prime minister's website. Trudeau, Harper, Chrétien, etc., all did this, not Carney. Isn't that weird? So that's weird. So you're just letting them, whoever set you're letting Scott Bessent set the narrative. So weird, right? And so the narrative is Carney kowtowed to Trump and walked everything back. And the Canadian government has absolutely nothing to say one way or the other on the matter. Cool. Cosman says China just took over a Canadian gold mining company in a $5.5 billion cash deal. It's been a little over a week since Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a new strategic partnership with China. Things are moving fast. Hey, you got any gold mines you don't use anymore? This gold mine is actually the biggest gold mine, as far as I understand it, for this company, Allied Gold. And it's in Africa. And so China came in and said, how many zeros do I have to put on this check right here to have this mine right now? And 5.5 billion takes it. And so that's interesting, right? And so Juno News is talking about this as well. A partially state-owned Chinese subsidiary under the oversight of the Chinese Communist Party has agreed to acquire Canadian-listed Allied Gold in a $5.5 billion all-cash deal. Right. And so there's the Juno News article about that. If you're interested, link is in the description. Kian says Mark Carney sells $5.5 billion Canadian gold mine to China, elbows up to Donald Trump, and knees down for Xi Jinping. So yeah, maybe it's certainly interesting. And the denial of the Chinese gold was in 2020, and that was a Chinese gold mine that China wanted to purchase in none of it, and the government stepped in and said no. And so I wanted to know if this was similar, and it's not. So, but at the same time, it's still weird and still kind of concerning. Gold is at $5,000 an ounce. I believe that's the price of gold right now. Gold hit 5,000 and up more than that too this morning, I think even. Silver's going bananas. Right now is the time to sell your gold mine, baby. This is the top. Do you think this is the top? I don't think we're anywhere close to the top. I think this going to the moon. And the reason I think that it's going to the moon, silver's increasing, and it doesn't seem like anything that the people who are trying to tamp the price of silver down are doing is stopping that. And I think it has to do with the collapse of fiat money. I think people are losing faith in their fiat money, and they see precious metals like gold and silver, and even other ones as well, copper, maybe to a lesser extent. I don't think your average, soccer moms out there trying to steal copper cables, but maybe investing in copper. I don't know if you're stacking copper. Nobody's stacking copper, right? So people are flooding or running to things they view as safe. And there are a lot of people who've lived through fiat money collapses before, and they know what they know, right? And silver is safe, gold is safe. So great time to sell your gold mine to China. Not weird? Super weird. Toronto Morning says Doug Ford calls federal auto strategy great, and says Ontario will be a part of it after meeting with Carney and Jolie. Yesterday, he said, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Bringing in EVs from China to ship into the United States isn't going to fly. You know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. What are you doing? What madness is this? And today he met with Mel Jolie, and he was best friends with Chrystia Freeland, and there was a whole thing where Mark Carney and Doug Ford had pizza, and people were saying, oh, they've made up. And I guess it was to get Ford on board with the auto sector being destroyed. He's now on board with that, I guess. Seems strange to me, but watch for Chinese EVs. They'll look very slick, but are they going to last? I don't know. And are they going to spy on you? Yes, they will, but no more than your phone. So it's okay. You're acclimatized to it. Real Mr. Bench says Mel Jolie admits that the Carney Liberals had no plan during the 2025 against the Trump tariffs. They were reactionary, but now in 2026 will be the year of the plan. Do you think so? That's why they need an auto task force, even though there's already levels of government doing that exact thing, right? So yeah, Mark Carney went to Toronto to meet Doug Ford. Carney was once again unavailable to the media. Mel Jolie told reporters that they have come up with a plan to help the auto industry. That plan, create another level of government with a new Ontario and federal auto task force. Wah, wah, right? Like, this is absolutely not what we need in order to fix things. So that's a daily occurrence. I feel like that about our government. CBC Watcher has this. CTV News says this Gen Z pair built a $35 million startup in Canada, and then they moved to the US. Oh, and it's gone, right? So, like, wouldn't you also move to somewhere that is not going to take half of your, like, $15 million of your hard-earned money? Yeah, probably, right? Like, there are ways to shelter yourself and set up your company. And so they moved to San Francisco to scale and shelter their company and all of those other things. Here's just a little bit of quote. Canada is like a really good looking guy you want to date, but for some reason he makes it really difficult for you to be with him. That's an analogy. Maybe he's just not that into you. You need to watch Homath, okay? Seriously, lady. Anyway, I digress. That's an analogy from Mai Trin, a recent business graduate from Simon Fraser University who co-founded a startup valued at $35 million before moving it to San Francisco to scale. You wake up one day and you realize your worth, and then you get out, says Trin. So, man, if you have an opportunity to do that, and the United States goes to zero income tax, you might just apply to jobs for fun. It's like shooting pucks at the net. Like, you never know what might go in, right? Just apply for a couple of jobs. Like, so long as it comes with citizenship or a path to being there legally, all right, let's check it out, yo. Especially if Canada remains uncompetitive with an income tax, right? Like, what? And there are places in Florida looking at getting rid of the property taxes. Yes, let's do that. The government should just stop pretending it's everybody's mom and fix the frigging potholes. That's it. That's all you have to do. Stop trying to police everybody. Stop trying to be, all the best things, and we're so inclusive, and we're so nice, and we're so this, and we're so that. Just shut up. Just shut up and fix the damn. That's your job. That's the only thing that you have to do, and you don't do it. Instead, you're sending money to the Ukraine. So fix the damn potholes and shut up. Stop your virtue signaling. It's ridiculous. We should cut them down to nothing, to absolutely nothing. I don't trust them. And they've proven over and over and over again that they can't deliver programs, because as soon as they start delivering programs, it's fraud. It's all fraud. Oh, and it's gone. Oh, yeah, well, the dental program, we thought we'd only need X, but actually we need double X. Actually, we need triple X. Actually, we need don't ask anymore because that's illegal. It is ridiculous. We're not at the don't ask anymore, but that's illegal. But we've been there. I've had $47 million bills. I've asked questions that they said, we have an answer, but we're not going to give it to you. Shut up. So if you think there's any difference, nope. We should cut them out. They can't deliver anything. So why give them money? Because they're just going to be fraudulent with it. They have proven that over and over again. Here's Evan Solomon. This morning, he says, I met with Israel's ambassador to Canada as part of an ongoing engagement on technology, AI, and economic development. Dialogue matters, particularly in complex times. Isn't Canada one of the countries that would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he landed in the country? Imagine sitting through that meeting. I don't know, man. Seems and not that the whole thing is sticky, and because Netanyahu's wanted at the International Criminal Court, right? The ICC, is that the one, or there's another one? I think it's the ICC. And so Canada said, oh yeah, we'd abide by that. And the United States has had, I mean, Bibi was at Mar-a-Lago for New Year's Eve, so they're not doing that. And so it's one of those things where sometimes when world leaders say something and then behave in a different way, or their government behaves in a different way, their actions speak louder than words, right? And that's not Bibi, but we're doing all sorts of deals with Israel. If you had a beef like that, would you be doing those deals? I don't know. I don't think so, right? I just don't think so. Here is Ruta, and he is Trump's biggest fan. He says, if you guys in Europe think that you can do defense without the United States, you're wrong, guys. So I don't know what the plan here is. I don't know what the play here is. Sometimes they flatter you to get you on their side, right? Oh, you're so smart. You're so good. You're doing so many great things. And then we just like you to do, like Macron's text to Donald Trump saying, dear Donald, I don't understand this, but we could do great things here and here and here. Flattery will get you a long way. And I think that maybe that's part of the play here. But Ruta is a globalist swamp monster. And I think that Trump should know that. If he doesn't know that, he knows that. Here we go.
So when President Trump is doing good stuff, I will praise him. And I don't mind him publishing text messages. And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO. And the US is not only in NATO to prevent a mistake after the First World War, not to re-engage with Europe. And then again, the long arm of history reaching out to the US again in the Second World War, as Churchill famously said in his speech in 1941 in the US Congress. They are also in NATO because for the US to stay safe, and by the way, Arctic region is evidence here, they need a secure Arctic, they need a secure Euro-Atlantic, and they also need a secure Europe. So the US has every interest in NATO as much as Canada and the European NATO allies. But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are planning for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. Good luck.
Good luck. I choose Trump, he says. I choose Trump. 18 minutes. Okay, we're good. We're good for a bit of time. Here is a reminder that you cannot multiply wealth by dividing it. And I think that is a good thing to know. It is a good, I can't remember what those, it's like an Aesop's fable. It's a good rule of thumb to know. This was written in 1931. You cannot legislate the poor into freedom by legislating the wealthy out of freedom. What one person receives without asking for, another person must work for without receiving. The government cannot give to anybody anything that the government does not first take from somebody else. When half of the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half is going to take care of them, and when the other half gets the idea that it does no good to work because somebody else is going to get what they work for, that, my dear friend, is about the end of any nation. You cannot multiply wealth by dividing it. And Canada is getting out their division calculators right now, and they're saying, listen, if we take all of this money from all these people who make all this money they don't really need and give it to the bottom group of people who don't do anything, but they're bothering us because they food's too expensive. So we gotta give them something to shut them up about that food's too expensive. So we'll take it from the rich people and we'll give it to the poor people. That's communism. That is taking your wealth and dividing it among your citizens, and you cannot become a wealthy nation that way. All that happens is people get resentful, and we're past resentful. Ryan says, new government, good try. It's the same as the old one. So this is Trudeau and Carney, and I heard Carney had the price tags removed from the background of this because the price tags are ridiculous at the grocery store these days, especially for produce and fruits and things like that, because it's all trucked in from southern states, southern Central and South America. So here's the comparison of these two. And I don't like covering Trudeau. I refuse to cover Trudeau, but the comparison is worthwhile.
That's why we created the new grocery rebate, which will allow an eligible couple with 2 children to receive up to $467. This is a measure that will help make life more affordable for around 11 million individuals and families
who don't work.
So today we're announcing that our government is launching the new Canada's Groceries and Essentials benefit. This will deliver hundreds of dollars more into the bank accounts of more than 12 million Canadians.
That's why we
Same damn thing. And the inflation has made the payout pretty much equal. Same one from Trudeau to Carney. Tokyo Rosie says, what does my new grocery GST rebate mean for Canadians? It means those who are applying for high food prices, who are paying for high food prices and higher income taxes will continue to pay for high food prices and higher income taxes. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Here he says, in Canada, we use the GST. So everybody pays the same GST, but some people get a refund. So, hey, you rich people who don't get a refund, thanks for funding our political tool to buy votes from poor people. Here we go.
Everyone pays the same GST on items that they buy, no matter how much money they make. But since groceries and other essentials make up a larger share of the budget of lower income Canadians, the GST puts a higher burden on those less well off. The GST credit has helped to make our tax system fairer by returning a portion of the federal sales tax to Canadians with lower
should just remove the GST. If you're not gonna tax everybody, then remove it.
Incomes, providing relief for people who feel the extra cost at the checkout most acutely.
Everybody's dollar is worth a dollar, right? If my chocolate cereal is $3 and I find that acceptable, and like if I'm rich now, my chocolate cereal is $5. That's no, like my dollar is worth $1, and the goods should be worth what they're worth, and it should be not dependent on what I make.
The rise in food prices means that a lot of these Canadians need more support right now. So today,
you steal my money?
We're announcing that
these poor people need support. Give me your money. Get out.
Our government is launching the new Canada's Groceries and Essentials benefit. This will deliver hundreds of dollars more into the bank accounts of more than 12 million Canadians.
So we are being robbed, and the money's being dished out like making it rain at a strip club on a Saturday night. And nobody's wondering where the money's coming from, and the rich people don't have the political clout to stop it, I guess, right? Anti-business governments, right, can do whatever they want, it seems. Very, very interesting. Chris says, food stamps for everyone. Carney says, we're launching the new Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit that's going to put hundreds of dollars more into the bank accounts of over 12 million Canadians starting this year. There's 40 million Canadians, and I'm willing to bet that I'm not one of the 12 million Canadians who's going to get any kind of rebate from this thing. So I'm going to be paying for it like a sucker. We're building a stronger economy, he says. No, we're not. And some of the biggest payoffs will take time to be felt. You've been lying for the last year and nothing to show for it. So take time? Yeah, I bet. So we're making sure people have the support they need right now. Give me a break. People who are dependent on the government will not stand up to a rogue government who's paying them off. National Citizens Coalition says Carney's Groceries and Essential benefit will cost taxpayers $3.1 billion in 26, $1.3 billion in 27, $1.8 billion each year 28 to 30. The credit can be spent on anything. We're back to the Trudeau era, heavy on slogans and political theater, and buying voters and redistributing wealth, and something that we should not be participating in. We are being forced to participate in, and we're being told, no, this is the right thing to do. And it's absolutely not the right thing to do. It is the opposite of the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to fix our broken economy. And I've got more to come on this. There are people who are pushing back and saying, like, this is not the way to fix this. But I've got to say goodbye to the stream. So thanks for watching.